Okay, so we are here this morning to talk about all things constipation because I know so many of you in this group are still suffering with migraines. And the reason that you're still suffering is because we have not gotten to the root of the issue, gut health, inflammation, and we've done everything that we can do to a point. So we have brought on an expert today. Lisa is here to help us. She's going to go through an amazing presentation and give us some other tips and tricks that we can use to get that gut health under control, which is going to reduce that inflammation, which is going to bring us to that end result that we want of a reduction in severity and duration and frequency of our migraines so that we can reach that end goal of migraine freedom. I saw all of your questions that you posted, which is absolutely amazing. We have those. And if we have time at the end, we're going to go through all of them. So what we're going to do with this format is in 2 seconds, I'm going to let Lisa take over. And we're just going to go through the format and hold all the questions to the end. That way that we can make sure that we get all of the amazing information that Lisa's bringing to us today. As I said, we're going to do our best to make sure we get to all the questions. And if we don't, I am going to ensure that I make sure I get those to Lisa so that we can get you guys the help that you need and also get you the information for her Facebook group so that you can continue a conversation with her. Okay, Lisa, it is all yours.
Okay.
Welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm in Nebraska, middle of the US. We finally got some rain. We've had record heat here. It's been unbelievably hot, which is no big deal for Nebraska because we get unbelievably cold and unbelievably hot. So I'm so glad you guys are here today. I know that constipation is a big deal with a lot of you, everybody on here. I deal with it every day with my clients. I have some clients that toggle between diarrhea, constipation. I am not afraid to talk about poop. It's what I talk about. You're in a safe space to ask questions about it. Okay. It's not embarrassing. It's just the way the body works. It's just a function. That's all. And so I want to give you some really good information about what's really going on with constipation, because a lot of times people just eat clean and they do all the things right, but they're still not eliminating. For some people, it's been going on 5 minutes, for some people 5 years, for some people 10 plus years. I deal with all kinds of people that are struggling with that. So let's get going here. Okay. So I was going to have you introduce yourself, but Debbie's kind of already done that. So we're going to get right to it. Okay. This is called How to Beat the Bloat by 75% in 7 days. So this masterclass was designed about bloat, but I want to tell you whether you experience bloat or not, and you have constipation, doesn't matter. I have plenty of people that honestly don't have bloat and they have constipation, but there's there is bloat going on the inside because it's inflammation. It's inflammation. So let me just say it right up front. Your body is amazing. It is perfectly made. There is nothing wrong with your body. Now, if you've had a scope and you've had everything checked out and all your plumbing's good, your body was meant to eliminate every single day. So I don't want you to think that, oh, I'm always going to be this way. And oh, my body just, I've talked to so many people whose GI docs told them, it's just the way your body works. My niece is one of them. He told her, it's just the way your body works. I said, that's a big fat lie. Your body's perfectly made. So I want you to know that. I also have something for you, 12 things you can do for your gut that don't involve a fork. There is a lot to be said with the information that we take in on a daily basis and the stress in our lives. And so there are some things you can do for your gut that don't involve a fork. I'll give you that link at the end. I'm going to show you the easiest ways to beat the bloat and some good ways to come at your constipation and some strategies and knowledge behind what's really going on, because knowledge is power. And I have 3, I call them fixes. They're quick fixes. Of how to beat the bloat without like meds, foods, or supplements. I'm not against meds. I'm not against weird foods, and I'm not against supplements. But a lot of times we're bringing all this extra information into the body in a supplement or a medication or, a food. And that could be contributing to the constipation. Okay, so tell me if you can relate to these things. Just think about this. Feeling like maybe your bloat is bad and you feel like you look 6 months pregnant, or you eat keto, still bloated, still constipated. Maybe you take Miralax every day. Maybe that's, on the reorder on your grocery list at the pharmacy. Being bloated to the point where you have to unbutton your pants, or you're constipated for 2 and 3 days at a time and you can't wear pants that button. That's another one. Maybe you're doing some intermittent fasting and the scale doesn't move. Maybe you avoid social fun and travel because your gut makes all the decisions in your life. Maybe sometimes you're just surprised when you do go to the bathroom or you're not bloated. You're like, oh, I don't know what I did different, but I pooped today. That happens. And maybe you feel like, this is maybe the way you're going to feel forever, like this forever. I know I did when I was struggling with it. So grab your workbook if you have that handy. If you don't, that's okay. And this is more for you, not for me, but just list the 3 most annoying things about bloat or constipation. I think it's important that you verbalize it to yourself, that you write it down or type it in, whatever you want to do. Because when you can actually put those 3 things there, then you can kind of work backwards from there. So just jot down 3 things that annoy you. And like I said, I want to tell you, it's not your fault. Depending on where you are, I know in Nebraska, we don't have a lot of alternative care physicians here. And so when people are dealing with chronic constipation and they go to a GI doctor, they get medications for symptoms. They'll scope, they will medicate and send them on their way. And there's not a lot out there for people who have had chronic constipation. So what I'm going to tell you today isn't what a doctor told me. Well, it is, but I learned it from a doctor and it wasn't in Omaha. So I cannot wait to share it with you. But the real problem is you eat what you've been told is healthy, like raw foods and fruits. And I know that this is kind of a gray area with the migraine situation, but I want to shed a little bit of light on this. And I think you guys will work with Debbie on, what's going to work best for you, because this is where the gut has a really hard time processing some things. So you've been told to eat a lot of fiber for constipation, not for migraines, but for constipation, but you still end up with gas, bloat, and constipation. You might even end up with diarrhea. The real problem is also you've been told to take supplements, digestive enzymes, the infamous probiotic, all those things. Well, if you go into a health food store here or a vitamin shop, there's somebody in there with a polo on that says, I work here. And they say, oh, try this probiotic. And you take one and it could seriously be a grenade in your gut. So those things you have to be real careful with too. And also the real problem is you take over-the-counter meds like Miralax. And at first they work, but then they don't work anymore. So you take more Miralax or you take a stronger form of it, and then that quits working. And then you have to get on a prescription for constipation, and then you're taking the enzymes. And so it's all kind of counterintuitive when I tell you what's really going on. So list 3 things, grab your workbook, list 3 things that maybe you've been told about your bloat constipation. Maybe from another practitioner, a doctor, a friend, a blog, whatever. List those 3 things that are most common. Some of the things I know that my clients talk about is that, if you go a little bit every day, that's good. A little bit every day. Well, I guess if you only eat a little bit every day, you only have to go a little bit every day. But if you're eating, you need to eliminate, right? That's a common one. I've also been made aware that a lot of people in this group maybe don't have gallbladders. I have a lot of people in my group who don't have gallbladders. That is a game changer for digestion. So if you don't have a gallbladder, they took your gallbladder, they took it away from you because it wasn't working right. That all goes back to what I'm going to tell you today. So you can't put the gallbladder back in, but there are some things that you can do for that. Okay. List 3 things that maybe you've tried for constipation that maybe worked and then didn't work. Maybe it is a probiotic. Maybe it's an enzyme. Maybe it's the Miralax. Maybe it's an Epsom salt bath. Maybe it's, removing a food. Could be something like that. That's usually the preliminary things that people will do. And maybe in trying those things and then they don't work, you feel down, frustrated. I know for me, I felt discouraged. And I'm going to tell you why, because my story wasn't even about constipation, but it was about celiac. I felt really defeated is how I would best describe. And that led to, being discouraged for sure. So everybody has this dream in their head, like, I just want to wake up. You probably want to wake up and not deal with migraines. I'm sure you want to wake up and go to the bathroom. You want to wake up and poop like everybody else. I hear that a lot. You want to wear yoga pants and not feel like your belly's hanging over the top. You want to have control over your gut, and you don't want, a lot of times, if you deal with chronic constipation, you feel like that controls your life, like the constipation is out in front of you all day, every day. And that's guiding your decisions on what you eat, how you react to anything, your stress. And then if you can go on vacation, or if you can go and have dinner with friends because you don't want to be stuck in a bathroom. So I'm Lisa Garrett. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I have 4 boys. I have a dog, Leo, who's 3, and a puppy named Rocky. That's a whole nother set of circumstances. It's fun, but I suffered for over 20 years with chronic bloat. And with that came not the constipation, but the other side. I had to run to the bathroom. And what I learned through my own experience is super simple, super effective. It's what I teach my clients to do. But I wasn't told this by any doctors. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. So I was diagnosed with celiac. And of course, the GI doc said, just eat gluten-free. I was like, okay, easy enough. Well, I did. But guess what? I still had the same symptoms. I still had the bloat. I still had the running to the bathroom after I ate. Something wasn't right. I was so discouraged and so defeated. That I actually began to look and look and look. And this is when the internet certainly it wasn't then what it is today. So it was hard to find things because it was, not new, but not great. And so I did a lot of research. I went back to school. I got a master's in holistic nutrition, and I went farther from there and found a doctor that I studied under about gut and psychology, and became a gut and psychology practitioner. And so with my experience with my gut, my master's, and studying under this doctor for the gut and psychology piece, I created my own program. And so now it's my life's work to help other people kind of heal their gut so that they don't have constipation, so they don't have diarrhea. And if my story says anything, it's bigger than just taking a food out. You have to get to the core problem of what's going on. So this was me when I was diagnosed. This was actually a picture of me the weekend I got really sick. It's at an Italian festival in Omaha. I'm giving the camera a thumb up, but if you look right here, look at my bloat. Look at that. I'm a lean person, but that, I look like I'm pregnant. I wasn't pregnant. I was 2 years post-baby. But what do you eat at an Italian festival? Carbs. And look what it did to my gut. That next week, I went in for a scope and was diagnosed with celiac. But all success is predicted on you making a decision. So the information I'm going to give you is going to give you some of your power back. This is a picture of me with my boys. This was 2 years ago. Now this one in the red tie is like way taller than the others and me. So I just wanted to show a picture that I'm not always bloated and looking unhealthy. Okay, because you can go from defeated, discontented, discouraged to something that feels a lot better to you. And now my gut is so good. I still have celiac, which is a wheat allergy. This is my husband, Jim, and I. This was taken in Sicily, and I was able to eat out in another country and not have diarrhea, constipation, or run to the bathroom, or any stomach aches. I didn't have a stomach ache for 2 weeks. So gut health can happen. If I can do it with celiac in Sicily, like you guys, we can all do it in the States, right? Because I know as much as I would try and translate, please don't contaminate my food and I need to eat gluten-free. I know my food was contaminated because we ate at mom and pop little diners that were incredible. They were so good. Okay, so this is, I just wanted to share a couple testimonies. This is Christina, Pilates instructor, dealing with constipation. She would bring her own food with her everywhere she went. Busy mom, 3 kids, and was just really guided by her constipation. So we met, we changed a few things in her diet. We did the gut healing program over, the 12 weeks. And she got great health out of it, and she's still doing it. So you can read what she says. We figured out the foods that worked, how to heal her gut, and what foods to stay away from, and the timing of her foods. She's a busy person, so we had to do some timing. And then I got to work with her mom and her son, which was really fun. So that was great. This is Joyce, an avid runner. She didn't necessarily have constipation, but she had some gut issues, which if you have any gut issues, they will eventually lead to a diarrhea, constipation, because if you don't digest correctly from the very beginning that you eat that food, it goes through the digestive tract improperly digested. So Joyce, obviously an avid runner. I worked with her for 6 weeks. She was feeling better about what she ate and drank and didn't mind cooking anymore. And so I love what she said. She feels like she has an arsenal of tools to use to make sure her gut is healthy. So I love that. This is Talia, a mother of 4 boys. Her thing wasn't as much constipation as it was chronic sinus infection. So see, the gut can take on a lot of things, and however your body perceives that, it can come out in a migraine, sinus infection, constipation, joint pain, skin rashes. It just depends on your DNA. So Talia,
Lisa, I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in just 1 second. Ladies, I think somebody's unmuted. If you guys could do me unmuted. If you could do me a favor, make sure everyone's muted so we don't have background noise. That would be great. Thank you. Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
No, you're good. So I helped her with her chronic sinus infections. Clearly she's not overweight, works out a lot, and eating all the good stuff, the grains, the fruits, the vegetables. So we did the 12-week program, and she did not have a sinus infection that first winter going into it, which she was surprised as all get out. And so and she likes the way she feels in her clothes. Clearly, look, she looks amazing. So, and then this is Lynn, desperate to change something, chronic gas and constipation. Self-sabotage was her method. She would start something and stop and say, nothing's ever going to work. I'm always going to be like this. And so her gut issues had gone on for so long, she felt helpless and hopeless. So we worked together 12 weeks, and we even did it over the holidays. She lost weight. That's the other thing, guys. If you're carrying extra weight around, don't beat yourself up because you're eating clean and you're not losing it. If you're not eliminating every day on your own, that's going to keep weight on you. That's going to keep you inflamed. And this is what Lynn found out. So when doing the program, she dropped weight even through the holidays. I remember her and her family went to Hawaii over the holidays too, and she had no problem eating there because fish is all over. So she did really great. And I love her ending quote, which is, "Thank you from the bottom of my gut." So all good successes. So grab your workbook, and I just want you to jot down the 3 foods you ate yesterday and the foods that you love but don't love you back. For example, I love broccoli, but it does not love me. Raw or cooked, cannot eat it. I love cauliflower. It does not love me. I like another thing. What do I like? I know people love avocados, but they don't necessarily love them back. So when I say love you back, it's like when you eat it, you just don't feel great, kind of a thing. So just write those down so you can be aware of those foods, okay? The first fix. Now, this is where I want you to work with Debbie on this, because I know raw foods are a big part of your program. But let me give you this background, because really, if you have migraines and constipation, you might toggle between this, because the raw fruits and veggies could be making the constipation worse. So it kind of goes like this. Okay, we're all women. Some of you have long hair. I have long hair. So when the drain in my shower gets clogged up and the water kind of pills at the top at, my husband, or I have to go in and crank out the hair that's in the drain, right? It's blocking the water from going down. So that is the same thing that's going on with your constipation. If you're constipated and you're eating these raw foods, you could have a traffic jam in the body, because somewhere along the line, if you're constipated, the food didn't get broken down correctly in the first place, and you keep eating raw foods, and now you have a backup in your digestive tract of food that's improperly digested and you can't eliminate. So let me further explain why this is important. So this is leaky gut, and the picture on, well, my left, I guess it'd be your right, the normal tight junction, that's so the gut has a wall or a barrier around it. Okay. And this, there's villi that surround the lining of the gut. So they're like finger type tissue. And on top, these little strands that look like hair, those little villi, they will grab food particles and absorb them. But here's what you have to do first. When you eat something like, broccoli, fish, chicken, whatever, you chew it, you swallow it, you're all good, right? It gets down into your gut. You have hydrochloric acid in your gut that breaks it down. Now, if you don't have enough acid, that's one problem. But the other problem is if it doesn't get broken down effectively and efficiently, then the picture on the right here that looks like these little bugs, but it's food particles, little food particles can cross through the gut lining and get into the bloodstream, and your body does not like that. And this whole process right here, the leaky and inflamed, is what creates the bloat, the gas, the constipation. So it's not just about your colon, it's about what's happening the second you swallow that food after you've chewed it. Okay. So years or days, weeks, months, years of this can lead to a whole host of things like a gallbladder issue, heartburn, and eventually lead to other, gut issues. So sometimes raw fruits and veggies can be hell on a leaky gut. So if you've been struggling with this constipation forever, you have to look at the raw fruits and veggies that you're eating. So one of the things you can do is you could stir fry something, break down some of those fibers. You don't have to have it mushy, but you have to be really cognizant of what you're putting in your body, because your gut doesn't have the integrity to break down something like raw cauliflower. Now, raw cauliflower is a perfectly good food. It just might not be good for you if you have leaky gut. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so grab your workbook. Now I want you to list the supplements and meds that you might be taking for constipation or bloat or for your gut. So it might be Miralax, could be probiotics, could be digestive enzymes, could be aloe vera juice, or that's not really a supplement, it's more of a food, but okay. So number 2, supplements. The reason you're not getting better and you can't eliminate, even though you take probiotics, maybe fish oil, and digestive enzymes. Folks, I want to tell you this, and I push this hard with my clients. If you cannot effectively eat, digest, and eliminate food, there is no way you can eat, digest, and eliminate supplements, because there's always a synthetic component to a supplement. Okay, always. So the thing like this gold, looks like a fish oil here, these gels, they might be totally fine. You can kind of see the fluid in there. But guess what? That gel substance that's holding it, that might be the very thing that you can't process. So my suggestion is start with food. Hone in on your food and make that digestion the best. And when you can do that, then move to your supplements. And you can work with Debbie on that because she knows a lot about that. And I know Zypan has been a common supplement that you guys talk about. I talk about that with my clients. That's the one supplement that would be one of the best ones to take, way beyond a probiotic, way beyond a probiotic. Okay. So remember the leaky gut? Ouch. Can't do leaky gut. Those food particles, that the same thing goes for supplements. Okay. So these proton pump inhibitors, or they're called PPIs. So if you're doing Miralax and then you've progressed to like a Prilosec or Prevacid or Nexium, those actually could be making the gas and bloat and constipation worse. And here's why. Because on the side of the box, it will tell you, do not take for more than 2 weeks. Well, I know some of my clients have been on these things for 20 years or more. Okay, this is a problem. I am not telling you not to take these. I am going to suggest that you visit with your doctor about alternative things, or you do your own Googling and research to find an alternative that you can talk to your doctor about. But the problem with this is there's actually an enzyme, not an enzyme, I'm sorry. The medication blocks an enzyme that your gut makes. Our gut makes its own enzymes naturally. That's what allows us to break our food down, okay? But all those medications actually interfere with some of the enzymes that help us break down proteins. That's a problem right from the start. That could be contributing to your constipation. And here is a study that proves it. In the Journal of Gastroenterology, correlation between chronic treatment with proton pump inhibitors and bacterial overgrowth. So if you have any SIBO or Candida or anything, any possible beneficial role in selected lactobacilli. So the conclusion is there's a significant impairment of intragastric acidity, the acid I was talking about, that you need that. It is sufficient to induce a relevant bacterial overgrowth with particular reference to sulfite-reducing bacteria and total coliforms. This fact can contribute to an increase in the risk of infections and intestinal diseases. It could be crucial to restore the gastric barrier, the leaky gut, okay? So what does this mean when you take these medications? Potentially more gut issues, because you have to have the acid that your body makes on its own, and you have to have those enzymes that your body makes on your own. So remember when I told you in the beginning, your body was perfectly made to eliminate. It has all the tools. It has all the enzymes. It has all the acid. But medications block a lot of that, especially if you've been on them for years, okay? Number 3, this is the best way to bulletproof your gut so that you can go out and enjoy yourself for dinner, go on vacation. I use this all the time. Super simple. And it's incredibly easy. Don't order anything raw when you go out to eat. So both of these plates, first of all, they look delicious. Love a salad, huge fan. I never order a salad when I go out. Why? Because I don't want my gut to get all angry at me while I'm sitting there trying to enjoy myself for 1 or 2 hours. There's nothing wrong with the salad, but I know my gut integrity can't always handle it. Here's the other thing. This is a salmon dish, but I picked one that had almonds on it because nuts do the same thing. So while this looks healthy, it is, but when you go out to dinner and you eat this, you could potentially sit there and feel like I either have to run to the bathroom or I'm going to bloat, and now I'm constipated, more constipated sitting here because you don't have the gut. That wall is leaky and it cannot break down those nuts. The salmon would be fine. Just the salmon in the, it looks like a little stir fry right there. That'd be fine. But when you add the nuts to it, now you have a game changer. You're asking your gut to do something it cannot do effectively. So just avoid all raw foods when you eat out. So when you get to a restaurant, open up your menu, go to your entrees, and avoid all raw foods. And then you can eat, enjoy the company, enjoy the food, and not think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in 30 minutes with my gut? Am I going to have to leave? Am I going to be uncomfortable? Am I going to be embarrassed? Okay, so I want to I don't want to do this choice thing. We're going to skip right over this. So if you have burning questions about your gut, you have at the end of your workbook a link that you can do a free gut health assessment call with me. You can book it anytime. And that's where we can talk about what's going on with you and some strategies that we can do. But I want to talk to you about a really easy test because I get asked all the time about foods. What about eggs? What about avocados? What about raw honey? What about coconut? I'm seeing a huge trend right now in collagen. So if you're using collagen in your coffee or your tea or your, whatever, your protein shake, collagen, the powdered form of it can be very intense, especially for a leaky gut. You guys, think of your leaky gut like a really bad scrape on your knee. We all had that as kids. We all fell down on our bikes or tripped and skinned our knee on the concrete. Remember how much that hurt and how red and irritated our knee was every time we took a shower, or every time we, ran or walked because the skin was healing. The gut is the same way. It's just that you can't see it. So there's a test called a sensitivity test, and I use this with my clients. And this is something you can do on any food, anytime, anywhere. So you take a picture of your wrist, the inside of your wrist with your phone. Just take a picture of it. Okay. Use the same light, make sure you can see it. Take a food in question. So if it's eggs, you would take a little bit of scrambled egg. I know this sounds silly, but it works. A little bit of scrambled egg. You would rub it on your wrist and then it would flake off. Okay. Why do we do the wrist? Because the skin is very thin there. It will absorb into the body, into the bloodstream, but not your gut. So then I have my clients do it at night before bed. Keep your wrist exposed. Don't wash it. And in the morning, take a picture of your wrist and now compare pictures. If your wrist has any redness, bumps, itching, scaly skin, anything that's different, you can compare your pictures, then that food should not be eaten. Because if you eat it, it's going to make your gut really angry. And then you're going to be set back about 2 more days with your constipation. So, but here is the caveat with this. I call it the sensitivity test. You have to use the food on your wrist the way you're going to consume it. So if you're not going to consume a raw egg, don't put a raw egg on your wrist. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So you can do it with yogurt. You can do it with honey. You can do it with collagen and it'll flake off. Just keep your wrist exposed and keep an eye on it. And people are like, well, I think I noticed a few bumps. That's why you want to take a picture so that you can compare your progress. That's a really, really easy way. So I don't know if you guys ever had allergy tests done for food where they would prick your back. It's the same thing, except they use a little needle so it absorbs quicker. Same thing. You're just not using that little prick. You're just letting your skin absorb it at its own rate. Does that make sense? That is a back pocket thing that you can do on any food. And I strongly encourage you that if you have any food that's in question, I think it's dairy, or this is my favorite, I can eat a little bit of dairy. No, you can't. You cannot eat a little bit of dairy. If dairy is your food, you cannot eat a little bit. It's like Debbie said, you're either pregnant or you're not. You're not just a little bit pregnant. You know what I mean? So I just love that. It's so good. Okay. So you guys know how to book a call. It's free. And this is just kind of about my program, which is not really my intent today, but there's the link for it. You have it in your notes. And then there's no catch with the call. I know you're in a group already, and maybe the information I give you is something that you can do alongside or do afterwards. But definitely, if you're dealing with that constipation, it could be that whole leaky gut thing. If you've been to a doctor and they have scoped you and you have all your plumbing, listen, I know a lot of people who are getting intestine, so many feet of their intestine cut out of them now. Guys, we need to keep our parts. So that when you go after your leaky gut and you try and get control over this constipation, things change. So, what are some quick things that you can do for your constipation? One, you can switch the foods around. At least take some of your raw foods, your raw veggies, and maybe cook them down, break down some of those fibers and see if that doesn't ease up on the constipation. I know fruit is not your friend in this group, and that's good because fruit adds to the bacteria that's there. Fruit doesn't help. Oatmeal doesn't help. That's a myth. And that's a big doctor myth too, is that oatmeal grains actually add more to the bacteria that's going on. Some other things you can do is you can increase some fat in your diet in the form of an avocado, in the form of coconut oil, in the form of olive oil. You can increase that fat because fat makes the poop slide out, guys. It makes it slide out. It's easy to digest. One thing I will do with my clients is I will actually suggest that they take a tablespoon of olive oil a couple times a day. You don't have to eat it in fat because people with gut issues don't have huge appetites either. So I just have them do a spoonful of olive oil a couple times a day. But changing the texture of your foods makes a difference. Finding the foods that wreak havoc, another big one. And then easing up on your gut with not raw foods as often. Okay. Because I know raw foods are part of your program. So you'll have to work with Debbie on that and follow what she says. But I do know that makes a difference. So
absolutely. And Lisa, I'll just jump on there. They are more than welcome to cook as many of their vegetables as they want. The big thing we talk about is not juicing. So I know you were going to touch on that point, and the comments that Lisa's going to make will be acceptable for those of you in the program that are having severe constipation. So as far as the veggies go, cook away.
Okay, good. Great. Okay, so let's talk about fresh pressed juice. I'm not talking about Welch's grape juice. I'm not talking about orange juice. I'm talking about a juicer that you have, or maybe a juice store that's in your area where it's fresh pressed. This is an awesome alternative. And I'm talking about green juice. I'm not talking about orange juice. This is an awesome alternative to decongesting your liver. When you're constipated, your liver is laggy. It's not able to keep up with producing enough bile. So one of the ways you can make your liver come alive is with some green juice. I mean, like celery juice, or just, I like a green with celery, juice of a lemon, spinach, parsley, all those greens that don't have any carbohydrates in them, fresh pressed juice. And you don't need a lot. I mean, like a fourth of a cup. That's all you need. A fourth of a cup a couple times a day is a great alternative. Again, I am not talking about orange juice. Believe it or not, beet juice is excellent. Your liver loves beets. I know beets are high in sugar, but if you drink it in the form of beet juice, it tastes really grassy. I happen to like beets. That's another food you could roast, would be beets, and eat those minus all the sugar, when you buy the pickled beets. Costco sold jars of beets that didn't have any sugar for the longest time. It depends on, what's in your area. But fresh pressed juice is a good alternative because it takes the fibers out of the food, and you're going to get all those antioxidants without having your gut break down the fibers in the plants. Okay. So I wanted to touch about that. The sensitivity test, the juices. Let's talk about the Miralax. If you're living on Miralax every day, you need to take your health in another direction and get to the gut healing side of it, because at some point the Miralax runs out and it's going to make the leaky gut worse. Nobody that I have talked to in my years of practice come off Miralax and say, yeah, it was great for my body. No one says that. it's eating away, and it's a band-aid. It's allowing your body, it's helping your body do something that it should naturally be able to do. Now, should you take Miralax and magnesium and things like that in the short term? Yeah. Like if you're traveling and you're constipated, yeah, because you're traveling. But at home, it shouldn't have to be part of your daily regimen. If it is, then you need to give your gut some really good attention there. So magnesium. Okay. Sensitivities. Oh, let's talk about some foods that would be natural probiotic foods for you. Dairy is a big one. If you do not have a dairy issue, I'm a huge fan of whole fat grass-fed yogurt. I'm a huge fan if you do not have a dairy issue. If you do, dairy's out. If you have access to raw milk or raw cheese in your area and you do not have a dairy issue, you don't need a lot, you just need a little, okay? Raw cheese has natural enzymes. Your body knows what to do with it, okay? I'm not talking Kraft American cheese. I'm talking raw cheese from your farmer that you get at your farmer's market. Now, let's say dairy is your nemesis. Then you can cross over to some fermented foods. That would be dill pickles, maybe that you buy from a farmer's market. Anything that doesn't have any added junk in them, like yellow number 5 or natural flavor. Stay away from that. Read your labels. Any kind of vegetable that has been pickled and fermented. And here's what you can do. You don't even need to eat the vegetables. You can take a spoonful of that juice. Who likes sauerkraut around here? Anybody like sauerkraut? Great fermented food. Will not spike your blood sugar, does not feed your bad bacteria. You have to be very careful with sauerkraut because it's fermented. Fermented foods, when eaten a lot, can act like a grenade in the body. So I would suggest a spoonful a day on sauerkraut, very little. And if you eat that sauerkraut and think, oh, I feel more gassy and bloaty, it probably was too much. Start with the sauerkraut juice. Just press your spoon down into the sauerkraut and drink the juice. Start with that. Okay. I know that sounds weird, but that works. Kombucha is another fermented food. You have to be careful because of the caffeine. And I know that's a no-no in this group, but it doesn't take a lot of kombucha. It takes a shot. That's all you need, a shot of kombucha. People drink kombucha like gunk, 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 like they're drinking, lemonade. No way. You're asking for a grenade in your gut. So just a shot of kombucha. And then one of my favorite foods is raw apple cider vinegar. It's fermented. You do not need a lot, a capful a day. And you can mix it with a little water. So if you're not fond of it, or you're like, ooh, it kind of makes me cringe, try it with a little bit of water and shoot it. One more food. Now, this is one that kind of crosses over that sugar barrier, but raw honey. So if you're drinking ginger tea, or any herbal tea without caffeine, you can add a little bit of raw honey because raw honey is antifungal, antibacterial, and it's raw. So your body takes it in and says, I know exactly what to do with this. Okay. So I've given you, I want to have plenty of time for questions. Let's go.
Lisa, that was amazing. Thank you so much for all that info. I'm sure everyone at the end was like scrambling to remember all those tips. So for everyone that's watching, please remember this is being recorded. It's going to live in the guides. So you can go back and watch it again and again and again to write all those tips down. Just a couple clarifications quick so that those watching, so I don't get the questions afterwards. We touched on the raw. So remember, it's okay. Go right ahead and cook those, steam them, do whatever you need to do. I 100% agree with that. I think if your gut is in dysfunction, then the last thing that you want to do is put those raw vegetables in there. You're just looking for trouble, whether you're eating out or whether you're eating at home. And I know this is the worst time of year to say that because it's summer. So we all want to go to the farm markets. We all want to get those really raw vegetables. But like Lisa said, you can just do light steaming. You don't have to cook them to mush. You don't have to cook them to the end. You can do a really nice light steaming, a great stir fry, and that should really work well for you. As far as the juicing goes, Lisa, I think you said it, but I just want to make sure that they all heard. make sure you're making this yourself, or if you are buying it, you have really got to be searching that label and making sure you're getting it from a good source, because most juices, they want to put fruit in there, which is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want that fruit in that juice, and just a small amount. And then the other thing that I loved you said, Lisa, was about taking the tablespoon of oil. We talk about that quite often. We actually use that as a migraine abortive.
Oh, yay.
For those of you, though, that are not eating high fat diets yet, make sure you do this slowly, because when you increase fat too quickly, then you're going to be messaging me telling me that you're having diarrhea, that your stomach hurts because your body, especially those without gallbladders. So just do it slowly, increase your fat slowly, and then your body will 100% be ready to adapt to it. It just needs that time to do that. And if anybody else has any further questions about the things that Lisa has talked about, if you're not sure, you're like, okay, Debbie and Lisa conflicted on something, just let me know. Before you make any changes, let me know and we'll make sure we go through that. Because as we know, we give, guidance and information that's foundational, but we are all unique individuals. So sometimes there are, things that are going to be unique to each person. Okay, so let's hit the first question. Lisa, you ready?
Ready.
Perfect. This person's following a predominantly protein and healthy fat diet with a few vegetables sprinkled in, but rarely any fruit. Seen some improvement in her migraines, but knows that her gut health and elimination are still on the constipation, or still on the constipated end. She's afraid to add more fruit because it seems to put too much of a blood sugar change and needs, and gets those migraine symptoms. So does she need to do something more specific to gut health until her body evens out and she can do more vegetables and one serving of fruit daily?
I think you're right on it with not adding more fruit. That's the last food I would add. I never add fruit to people's diet unless they exercise and they need it, or their job is physically active. Like if someone's a nurse and they walk 8 miles in a shift or something like that. Protein and fat make the cells insulin resistant. I'm sorry, sensitive, and that's what you want. What I would do is I would add some fat slowly to your diet, and I would do some sensitivity testing on some of the foods. Eggs are a big one. Eggs are quite possibly the most perfect food in the world, but they are not perfect for everyone. So, if you're eating a food every day, like if oh, I eat eggs every day for breakfast, that might be a food that you test. I would test the foods that you're eating the most frequently. Okay. Start with that and kind of do that sensitivity test to see where your sensitivities are lying. Because if you can remove the food that's wreaking the havoc, things will come together a little bit more naturally for you. Okay.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, another question. If we're eating something like avocados daily, but they're not necessarily agreeing with our bowel movements, do we need to eat them less often, eliminate them for a while, or add something to our diet to counter?
Good question. I would say if a food does not agree with you, do not eat it. Even if they are telling you to eat avocados, that's fine. I love avocados, but they don't love everybody's gut. They just don't. It's just like the collagen. Collagen is a buzzword supplement right now, and everybody's all over it. But I am finding with my gut health people, it's actually doing more harm than good. It's actually giving them more constipation. Okay. So this is where you really need to kind of put yourself in your food bubble of what works for you. Okay. No matter what they say. Okay. And this is where Debbie can help you kind of, iron out those details.
Absolutely. And as we heal our gut, Lisa, don't we find in the future that some of these foods we can possibly introduce back in, but we're not talking weeks. We're talking
Absolutely.
months, sometimes a year. It all just depends on our gut health. So, don't give up on avocados for life or whatever it may be. It's
Keep
just a
trying them.
temporary. Exactly.
Keep trying them and do the sensitive. Like if you don't mind the gut response you get, you can eat them, but I would do them on my wrist first so I don't have to deal with an uncomfortable gut reaction, because that could be a trigger for even your migraines. Like if your gut doesn't like it, it's going to trigger something else in the body. So this is going to be a win-win for you guys, really.
100%. Yeah. When we have food allergies, that is definitely one of the big triggers that pushes us over the edge. So using that sensitivity test, I have a feeling a lot of people, Lisa, are going to go to bed with food on their arm tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll be like, good night.
So I challenge all of you, whatever food that you pick, let's take a photo. I know we're not going to be able to see it really well on your wrist, but take a photo for me and post it in the group and let me know what you're testing tonight. Because I have a feeling, I think we have 11 or 12 people on here now, and I think everybody's going to be testing tonight.
Yeah, totally.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have somebody who has a problem with hemorrhoids, and she swings from constipation to diarrhea, and she cannot get balanced.
So that's a lot of my clients, the toggling and trying to go and straining in the hemorrhoids and then the not being able to go. So again, depending, do you have a gallbladder? Try some of the fresh pressed juice. Try adding a little more fat. Try maybe the raw apple cider vinegar. The diarrhea is no fun, but at least it comes out easier, and you don't have to strain. So you shouldn't have to strain to eliminate. If you do, another thing that works really well, and I know you guys probably do this in your group, is soaking in an Epsom salt bath is really, really good for you. Another thing that I absolutely love for people who, really are like getting the hemorrhoids just means you're just really physically stuck. Rub some castor oil on your belly, like below your navel. Rub some castor oil before you go to bed. And if you're, straining to poop, try some magnesium before you go to bed. You can Band-Aid with that until because you want that to be easier and you don't want it to toggle and you don't want to strain to end up with the hemorrhoids. So try the castor oil, try the fresh pressed juice, and add a little bit of fat too in the
Perfect.
detox bath.
Do you find, Lisa, that the fat, when you increase your fat, the only time that people are going to get a diarrhea reaction from that is if they're increasing quickly? Is that correct? Or can some people get a reaction otherwise?
That, and if they don't have a gallbladder, that's hard.
Okay.
Because that gallbladder was holding the bile.
Yep.
Now the bile, and this is where, the bile's aimlessly in the body now in the bloodstream, and it gets recycled back to the liver. So the liver is clogged up again. That's where the fresh pressed juice comes in, to the green juice, to unclog that liver. So maybe start with even just a spoonful of fat, or maybe you put a little extra fat on your salmon, a little extra fat on your, veggies, your stir fry or something like that. Work it in like that. But yeah, I think, and that's where, you'll have to talk with Debbie if you don't have a gallbladder, because that is that's like another, I should do a whole masterclass on that, honestly.
I just stopped our screen share so we could see each other's faces for a minute.
Good.
Okay, so if they don't have a gallbladder, I know we've mentioned Zypan a couple times. Would that be a smart idea for them?
Zypan, if there's any supplement that anybody takes who's constipated, that is the one, Zypan.
Okay.
Because people who are constipated don't have enough stomach acid. I take Zypan. A lot of my clients take it. Start with one, do what Debbie says on that. But when you eat, especially stir fry or proteins, Zypan would be great. And Debbie, I can talk to you about the other one from Standard Process that I put my clients who don't have gallbladders on, and it's
okay.
a big deal. I can talk to you about that.
Great. Wonderful. I've been told I have a twisted colon. Can this be problematic to constipation and diarrhea?
Yeah. I mean, twisted stomach, twisted colon. This is where I would suggest that if you've been diagnosed with that, you're gonna, I mean, people who are constipated are typically tightly wound people anyway. Okay.
Oh, you mean the type A ladies in this group?
Yeah, type A's. So this is where that relaxation piece in your life is huge. You might have to induce some serious meditation, some mindset, some yoga, Pilates, relax that body from deep within so that you can open up those energy pathways. And yoga and Pilates are the perfect things to do that. the perfect things.
Wonderful. And we're actually adding an extra call starting next week, working on mindset and stress reduction. And so that'll be a bonus, I think, to help with that. Erin's actually going to be running that call. I'm so excited to join as a guest.
Yay. Good. That's a huge piece. It's a huge piece for my group. And I have some meditations that I give to my group that, because people with gut health, the same thing, the type A, tightly wound. So yes.
Okay. If we try the wrist test during the day, how many hours should we wait to compare?
I always tell people about 7 hours. It takes longer because you're not using that little prick that they would put on your back. But you know what? If you eat a food and 2 hours later, you're like, oh, my wrist itches, there's your reaction.
You're done. You
You're
don't need to
done.
wait 7 hours.
Yep, you're done.
Perfect. Can you massage your colon or belly to get things moving? Does that help?
You can rub that castor oil below your navel, rub it in, it will absorb. Just plain old castor oil. It's an old world food that's been around for hundreds of years. And some people take it orally, but you can rub it on your back. You can rub it, on your belly, and just rub it in. You can massage it. I would do it. One of the best things, one of my clients who was constipated for 30 years, she would do a detox bath, rinse off, and then she would put castor oil on her belly at night and rub it in. And she loves it. Now, we did our whole 12-week gut health program, but even after 3 weeks in the program, I got a text, maybe this is too personal, but I actually pooped today.
We get those texts too. And we say it's not too personal, because if you can't talk about poop here, I don't know where you can talk about it.
Exactly.
And it's the most important thing to talk about here to get where we want to be with migraines. So I love that. I love that. Okay. So can you explain a little bit more, Lisa, about what happens to our body when we don't have a gallbladder and why that's affecting our gut health and what we're going through?
Okay. So your gallbladder is this little storage tank that sits in your body. And when you eat, especially protein and fat, your liver will secrete bile, and it sits into the gallbladder as a storage tank. So when you eat salmon or eggs or beef stir fry, whatever it is, your gallbladder senses that. The hydrochloric acid in your gut starts to emulsify it. And then the gallbladder does a squirt of bile into the small intestine to further emulsify those fats. So when that storage tank is gone, because, quote, you don't need it. Okay. You needed it. When that storage tank is gone, where is the bile? The bile never makes its way into the gut efficiently. So now that stir fry that you just ate is going to sit there and not have the bile to emulsify the fat in the beef or the oil. So now you have improperly digested proteins, carbs, and fats. And now digestion, peristalsis, when the gut starts to move, okay, the liquid that it broke down through the digestive tract, now it's improperly digested. Now you've got improperly digested food in the bloodstream. The body doesn't like this. The body says, hey, you're not supposed to be there. You're in uncharted territory, and you develop your own antibodies to attack those foods. And that's how food sensitivities can start. So if you don't have a gallbladder, what you need to have is a gallbladder assistant to do what that bile is not doing, because it's not there. Does that make sense?
Everybody thumbs up. Makes sense? Wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. I know we go to the doctor and the doctors are like, oh, your gallbladder's not working well, let's take it. And then we don't get told the consequences of what happens when we don't have that anymore. And obviously we can't put the gallbladder back, but at least now we understand what is happening and how we can move forward.
Yeah. So I tell my clients, they have to take, if they don't have a gallbladder, you will never digest normally the rest of, that's the only way you won't, because they took an organ. They took your organ. Now, your organ probably was faulty. It was working at 5%, but they never gave you the choice of, how do I save my gallbladder? How do I fix it? They don't tell you that because they think you don't need it. But what they don't tell you when they send you out after they take your gallbladder is, oh, by the way, you're not going to poop normally for the rest of your life, but take care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to take bile salts. You have to take bile salts when you eat to give your body the help, because that bile isn't there now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Perfect. All right. We want to respect Lisa's time. So maybe, do you have time for like one or two more questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it's a
sure.
Saturday. We want to make sure, and we really appreciate you being here and answering all these amazing questions.
No, it's perfect.
All right. Barbie, I know you have a very specific question on SIBO, so I'm just going to ask half of it, and then we're going to get to the other half with Lisa later. We talked a little bit before about taking probiotics, taking supplements, all those kind of things to help us when our gut is in dysfunction. So we know that those things unfortunately aren't going to work well, so we get our gut back in the proper place. But is there anything to doing herbal courses and those kind of things that, have been prescribed for SIBO? Did those help at all with constipation and the whole gut health? Or do we really just need to be focusing on foods and the basics right now?
I focus personally, if you can't digest food, you can't digest herbs. But I do know there are people, they swear by their probiotic or their enzyme, and they swear that is what helps them to go to the bathroom. Okay, fine. Keep taking it, but we still need to approach this whole leaky gut thing, which is why you're constipated in the first place. So if you know of a supplement or something that you know is truly helping you and it's a clean product, okay. But still keep your focus on the fact that, I have to be able to break down, digest, and absorb food before I can do it in a supplement. And that's why you can use some of those probiotic foods I talked about, like yogurt or apple cider vinegar, fermented veggies kind of things.
Can we do a full fat coconut yogurt if we find one that's just coconut?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that good for those people that are dairy sensitive? Okay.
You can, but the coconut yogurt, you'll have to look and see if they put any probiotics in it, because coconut is antifungal, it's antibacterial, but it's not a natural probiotic. But dairy is. So you do your homework. Coconut yogurt's very trendy right now. And there's a lot of coconut yogurts out there that are full of junk.
Yes.
Junk.
That's why I prefaced clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know there's some new almond ones out there. But yes, we don't know if those are a clean version. So, okay. Good to know.
Yep.
All right. So we have something in the program, Lisa, called the Aaron shot. This actually started when Aaron was in the program, and we use it to help abort migraines. Basically what it is, it's a small amount of water, an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, and then a little bit of fat that we use when we feel a migraine coming on. Is it okay if they are going to do apple cider vinegar to throw it in there, or do they need to be taking apple cider vinegar separately?
Throw it in there.
Perfect. All right. Because if we can do one thing that doesn't taste great and get it all done and over with, then we can just have a little addition in there. Okay, ladies. So when we're doing the e-shot, go ahead and throw in that apple cider vinegar. And does it matter if it's the apple cider vinegar with the mother or not?
Yeah, it has to be raw. Raw.
Okay. Perfect.
So you do want it with the mother. The brand I use is Bragg.
Okay. Perfect. That's the one I use. Marvelous.
Yeah, you can get it everywhere.
Yeah, that is a really well-known one. Okay, ladies, I think I have one more question here, and it's about nuts. I think 3 of you asked that. So I am going to ask the question about nuts, and then we will, Aaron, you can let me know if I'm missing anything, but we'll try to wrap it up here so we can respect everybody's time. First off, do we eat raw nuts or roasted nuts? Because they love nuts, and these people don't know if it affects them or not, and just hoping that she can still eat them.
Okay, so I always go for raw nuts. Roasting a nut is a little bit of carbohydrate and fat with very little protein in it. A nut by nature is good for you. And the second it's roasted, it is completely denatured. And now you're eating oil and salt. So It tastes good. I love, dry roasted peanuts or whatever, oven roasted, I don't know, almonds or something like that. But um, that's where you get into trouble. So raw nuts are good if they love you. Okay. I don't introduce raw nuts into my program for about 6 weeks because they are terribly hard to digest. Now I'm working with people who have leaky gut. So for that's another food that I love. I love almonds. They do not love me. I will not eat nuts because I will get gas bloat and then I'm going to be in trouble. So that's definitely a food to watch out for. Make sure that you can. So if you want to eat nuts, if you love almonds, do almond butter. If you have that leaky gut thing going on, you know what I mean? So you still enjoy the nut without having your gut. Your teeth can break it down, no problem, but you don't have teeth in your gut. You have acid, but you don't have enough stomach acid if you have this leaky gut. It's kind of a rabbit hole cascade of things going on. Does that make sense? Did I answer that question?
Absolutely. And we do talk in the program about trying to avoid nut butters whenever possible. But this, if you get the crunchy version, there's actually been some new research that shows that a crunchy almond butter doesn't give us that reaction that we get from something that's super smooth. So that's something you can try and test. So know that, yes, the almond butter is great as far as being it easier to break down. But as far as the migraines go, let's test the crunchy. Let's see how it works. Remember, it can take up to 72 hours to see a reaction. So don't just be looking for it in 1 hour and say, oh, okay, I'm perfect on the almond butter. That's not the case. So track for 72 hours. Let's start with a small amount, ladies, for those of you that I've told not to eat it, and then work your way up and we'll see how that goes. Last question on the nuts. If they want to test for nuts, Lisa, like if they eat handfuls of almonds and you said to test in the form that you normally eat something in, is it going to work just by taking an almond and rubbing it on your arm?
Not as much. Yeah, that's a great question. You'd have to try a little bit of almond butter, to be honest.
Okay.
Because it's the almond that you're looking for, the texture, not as much. But yeah, just smear a little bit of almond butter on your wrist and you'll smell like almonds for a little while.
There you go.
That's one you might want to do during the day because that'll kind of stay on there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah.
Perfect. You mind if I sneak one more in? I missed one on
here. Go for it.
Could you tell what a define detox bath in your, when you mentioned it, what you do for a detox bath?
So you just, you have a warm bath and you take half a cup of Epsom salt and just add it to it and soak for 20 minutes. You can also add any suggested essential oils by Debbie. I know she's into the oils. Some people put raw apple cider vinegar in the bath.
Really?
Yep.
I have never heard that one.
For constipation, you can add that. Yep. Because your skin is a respiratory system. So you're absorbing. So you can try that. Some people don't want to smell like vinegar, but when you're done with the detox bath, so you soak for 20 minutes. Okay. And then you rinse off in the shower. Rinse because the detox, you want to rinse it all off. You want to get the Epsom salt off of you. And then, you know what? You can actually take olive oil or coconut oil and rub it on your skin. That's a safe moisturizer. And guess what? That just absorbs into your body without you having to eat it. So if you have dry elbows or dry legs or dry heels, get some olive oil on there or coconut oil and rub it into your skin and it will absorb really nice.
And if you ladies like essential oils, like some of you are sensitive, some aren't, I don't use any lotion but coconut oil. And I keep a little container that has my favorite essential oil in it. You mix it up. So then when you go to put it on your body, now you have the oil, you smell good, you feel good. And we know our skin is like our biggest organ. So how amazing when we can put something on it that soaks in, that is doing something great for us.
Yeah.
So
it's a win-win, really. Total win-win.
Absolutely. The only thing I find with coconut oil is use less than what you think you need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be like slithering around the rest of the day.
Yeah. And
I go to do yoga and I go to do yoga. I pull my head up. I'm like, oh, there's my coconut oil mark on my yoga mat.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Lisa, this was amazing. This was amazing. I really appreciate you staying and answering so many of their questions. Ladies, if I missed something, please post it in the video afterwards, and I will make sure that either I answer it or I get the information from Lisa. Can we give Lisa a big high five? Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. Oh, Debbie, I'll give you the link for the 12 things you can do for your gut that don't involve a fork. I'll message you that and you can send this out to the ladies.
Perfect. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Ladies, thank you so much for taking your time on a Saturday.
Thank you so much, you guys. Good luck to
Yeah.
you.
Wonderful. All right. We'll see you in the group, everybody. Take
Take
care.
care.